Good parenting means shielding them from all stress. True or false?
False. You are preparing your kid for life, not only for the day. You have to put them outside a bubble.
The reason that social skills aren't developing is due to technology. True or false?
I think false because I think social skills are developing, but not in the way that maybe we expected or that we know. They don't know how to solve conflicts, for example, because they're not, you don't put them in that situation. So when you don't expose them to those situations, they don't know what to do because they have to learn. Try to make time at least once a week to spend with your kids without your cell phone. And the most important is that I think you have to give them a place where they feel important.
The early years of a child's life are a whirlwind of emotional and physical growth, and for Generation Alpha, this journey has been intensely shaped by unprecedented events like COVID-19. After their parents, other experts and caregivers play a pivotal role in steering this development. Today, we bring you insights from an esteemed expert in child psychology and education. Having worked closely with both the youngest and the current Alpha cohorts, our guest sheds light on the unexpected ways this generation is viewing and influencing the world around us and them. There is so much more beneath the surface of how Generation Alpha is choosing to shape their future. Hello, everyone. My name is Goldie, your co host for this episode.
And I'm Lakshan, your other co host for this episode. And this is episode 41 of Mind the Gen Gap podcast. As you know, we are in season 2 of this podcast, and the spirit of this season lies in inviting interesting people with very interesting perspectives to share their expertise with us. As we dive into today's focus on Generation Alpha, remember that we explored this topic before in season 1, episode 18. So you can go back and listen to that episode before you kind of do a deep dive on this one as well. And also don't forget to show your support and stay connected by subscribing to our YouTube channel and following us on Spotify.
And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Neelu Uttamchandani. Neelu is a pioneering figure in the field of child education and psychology. She brings over 14 years of dedicated experience to the table. As a licensed psychologist from the Central University of Chile, Neelu excels in life and leadership coaching, holding international certification from ILC Academy. Her expertise extends to being a master practitioner in NLP, so that's neuro-linguistic programming, and possessing a postgraduate diploma in language and communication disorders. Neelu's journey is marked by her passion for fostering self-awareness, enhancing communication, and developing personal skills through innovative psychotherapy and coaching programs. Her approach, which emphasizes purposeful leadership and circular communication, empowers individuals and teams to overcome challenges and transform limiting beliefs into strengths. As the first guest from Latin America on the podcast, Neelu offers a unique perspective on child education, drawing valuable insights from her extensive background. Now, beyond her professional accolades, she is also a mother of 2 wonderful children, always embracing new learning opportunities, and continues to inspire positive change across cultures and continents, enriching lives through her invaluable contributions to education and personal growth. Let me remind you that her own children belong to Gen Alpha. So we really truly have an embodied expert in the room. Welcome, Neelu. Muy bienvenida a Mind the Gen Gap podcast. How are you feeling?
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for this invitation. I'm feeling good. Muchas gracias. um, I'm very glad to be here talking about Generation Alpha. I think it's very important that we, as not only as a mother or parents, but also as caretakers and teachers, we try to understand this new generation because only by understanding the vocabulary, how they communicate, their different kind of emojis, we will try to make the most of it and try to comprehend what do they want to get from this lives, what is their purpose, how what goals they want to aim. So good, I'm feeling good. I think it's an amazing episode, and it's very interesting and necessary for parents and for teachers today.
Yeah. I think as I hear you speak, I can feel the emotion that you mm, deliver towards us in the passion you carry for this particular generation. And what I want to point out very much is you're very focused on understanding them, which I think makes so much sense when we're trying to, work with different generations. I think the first pillar of wanting to understand another person is always let me understand you, and then perhaps you'll understand me as well. I really like that. I think that neatly kind of brings me into my very first question, Neelu. I want to know that, how would, so we've obviously read and learned a lot about alpha through our research, but coming from you who has two at home and so many more in school, what characteristics would you say make them stand out compared to maybe previous generations? Because if you had a long, journey of over a decade working in your school, so how are they different to say the sort of the Gen Zs maybe?
They're very intuitive with technology, of course. they they sometimes overuse it, of course, which also has their problems. But they're very creative. They're very curious. They they are very inclusive, and I think they're very understanding of diversity, which I think is the main difference with millennials, for example, and alpha, because understanding diversity in every sense, in sexuality for example, or in their taste in clothes, they don't see much the physical part or how we get dressed or this or that. They see like the inner part, and they really do, they really focus on that. um the other part is that they are shorter on attention spans, because I think of the technology like overuse. They also are they have high levels of anxiety for the same reason. And another thing that I think, they have reduced playtime, like in general, because parents also today of generation alpha, parents of generation alpha and caretakers, we're very overwhelmed sometimes. We have different roles, right? And today working is like, it's a high expectations for adulthood. So, and not only in the house, also when you work outside the house, and also because you want to travel and because you want this and the materialistic part. So you give them a lot of time for them to use technology, not always in a good way. So they have reduced time in the playground, for example, or like with sports or with outdoors activities, for example. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of alpha. But in general, I think we need to have high expectations of them, because they also, they have expanded emotionally vocabulary. For example, they say like, I need space, or I'm feeling anxious, or, sometimes in school they tell me, miss, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, you're overwhelmed, oh wow. Okay. And you would never hear like our generation saying, you just did what you had to do and you go on. But no, they need their stop, and I'm feeling this, which is good. It's good. That's very good that they
Yeah.
expand the vocabulary, their feeling vocabulary, because I see sometimes adults and they don't have emotional vocabulary. They really, it's a problem, because how do you solve a problem when you can even say what you're feeling? So it has to start from there. And but they can do it. They can do it. So good. We have to have high expectations for them.
I like that you said that we have to have high expectations of them. I also like how you brought up this diversity factor. But the thing that's really sticking out for me, Neelu, is what you mentioned about this, they don't have time for play. So, what is the impact it's having on their development uh, by not having time for play?
Uh, I think it's not that they don't have the time, it's that we adults don't create the opportunity because we feel stress. So, what's the easiest? You give them the cell phone, you give them the tablet, you go for lunch and you want to talk with the other adult on the table. So, you give them technology, or they're eating. So, when they're eating, you use that time maybe to do your stuff at home. So, they're on the TV. TV, of course, doesn't have the same impact that games in the tablet, but it's still screen time. So I think sometimes we're afraid that they're going to get bored, or that I don't know, that they're going to tell you like, I'm bored, mom, come play with me, which is good. They should do that. That they're kids, but yeah, I think they have to have more time doing sports, for example. But what things, like for example, they don't regulate emotions. That's That's an yes. They don't know how to solve conflicts, for example, because they're not, you don't put them in that situation. So when you don't expose them to those situations, they don't know what to do because they have to learn. And how do you learn? How do you learn to ride a bike? You get on the bike, you fall down, you get up. But they don't even have the opportunity to fall down because parents just solve it for them because it's easier. Like, go get water. I can't find my bottle. So, okay, okay, I'll do it for you. But no, let them go, let them look, like, let the water just fall to the floor. It's okay, we can clean it. But there's no time. So when there's no time, you don't give the exposure for them to get it wrong, and then give them the opportunity to get it right. So that's the thing with not having the skill of healthy conflicts, like, to solve the conflicts in a healthy way. That's what I meant. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Wow.
And the other thing is the boundary. That was very the boundary learning. How to put boundaries. Like, say, I always teach them, put the hand like that, and make a stop physically, because in a kinetic way, they have to use everything. They have to look how the other person is, their tone of voice, their posture. So the kinetic way is also a very common thing. Like, you know what? I don't want you to treat me this way. But they are not learning this because they are not interacting.
That's It almost sounds like there's something that's missing, which is an integral component of growing, which is so simple, right? Playtime, outdoor playtime or playground time, where you have these abundant opportunities to fall and rise. And those are linked to resilience, to independence, to being this human being which is able to resolve conflict in the ultimate
Empathy.
sense, empathy. And it all comes from playground time or playtime, as you rightly say. And I want to believe that this is not because the parents are not entirely self-aware. I'm sure they are, and you are a parent yourself, Neelu. But is there any chance that, for example, COVID-19 had an impact on this reduced playtime? Because as we know it, there was so much restriction on being outdoors, or even, I'm just thinking 2010 is when Alpha was born. And so by 2020, we're still in Alpha. The oldest Alphas were 10, but the newborns were born in COVID. And therefore, by the time we came out of COVID, that initial 0 to 1 stage, or 0 to 2 even, isn't it so critical for their these fine motor skills almost, which then lead them into wanting to be outdoors more or have more playtime with other people, social connection. I want you to sort of give me a little bit of insight on that period, Nilu.
Yeah, I think, well, missing the early school years, for example, a lot of kids had to learn to read and write through computers, through remote learning. Well, my daughter, actually. So, because they were in first grade. So that was interesting. Then, for example, the not going to birthday parties of their classmates, of their friends. And birthday parties are very important because it's not only the party for the kid, it's where they fight, it's where they resolve conflicts, it's where they fight for the piñata candies, for example, is where they learn how to tolerate frustration. So, yes, and not only birthdays, like parties in general, or celebrations. Um, Also, well, the playground thing that I told you, that they didn't have playground because they were at home. But some things did shift. It did have an impact in them. For example, some became very dependent. And this is what I called, I don't know if you know this term, but with helicopter parents, because they're like on top of you, like want to do everything for you. Because of what I was saying before, because it's not that they want to do it, they think it's easier. Sometimes they're like afraid to tell them, go do it yourself because they'll have a tantrum. So they avoid it. Um, or for example, well, the dependent part is good, but also some they develop autonomy a lot because their parents were working in remote, so virtually, so they had to just do their things at home, right? Make their beds, make snacks for themselves, uh, I don't know, small things, put the clothes here, because maybe people who have, I don't know, some help at home, they couldn't be able to come because of COVID, so you had to like just fix it
Mm.
yourself. And that made everybody like divide responsibilities, right, at home. So this also developed autonomy on them, and that was good. That was good, and it made them very smart with technology. I mean,
Yeah.
you give a kid uh, a Nokia, for example, and they will try and do this, and it's like, no, this is not working. It won't. Sorry, honey, it won't roll. Like
That
buttons.
they're the swiping generation, aren't they?
The swiping generation, like it won't swipe, honey. No, like, but that's our like, or maybe you show them a telephone, or you show them like things we used to do with our pencils and the cassettes, for example. They don't know that. They don't understand. For them, everything is Spotify and Netflix, and the attention span is bad because of the scrolling. The scrolling is the dopamine it gives you. It's very, very bad. Like
Unhealthy, right? Yeah.
very unhealthy. Yes, the bad habit of that. And before going to bed, for example, you're not going to sleep after scrolling for half an hour. Not an immature brain. So or frontal the frontal part of our brain, like it's very immature. Like we mature 25, 26, even 28 years old. So imagine them. They don't even have the ability to regulate, to take decisions. And dopamine is just like, it's an addiction. It's bad. So it doesn't help them. And this got worse. The thing is that I think they were always going to be native with the like digital natives. uh it was always going to happen, of course, because it started with millennials. But I think COVID just made it worse. Like it took them to a place where it's been very hard to bring them back to the pens. Like when we came back to schools, I don't know if this happened in Europe. I think so, because um, it was very hard for them to write with a pencil, because everything you had to give it in virtual classes. They would give you homework and you had to send it by email, right? So, or classroom, or different pages. But the thing is that it was very hard for them to start writing. The motor skills, like, it affected them a lot. And I think it did happen in Europe also, because Europe now changed all the virtual books to physical books. There are many places in Europe that have already started with that. So, and now ChatGPT. uh, so yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it's tough because we adults also get overwhelmed because it's a lot. You don't only have to learn how they think or how they're talking to you, but also all this technology advances, and you at least have to know a bit, because if not, how do you control it? How do you regulate it? So yes, it has an impact, a lot.
Yeah. Like, so one of the things that I heard you say, Neelu, was how, I mean, your brain is not mature enough to be able to regulate your emotions, and all of that stuff, right? And earlier, I also heard you speak about how you hear a lot about them having very high emotional vocabulary, saying, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and all of these things, right? So, okay, so now this is a bit of a, it's something I'm actually wondering about. So now there are much higher cases of, say, ADHD and anxiety and depression and all of these things, right? So the
mood
question that I have,
disorders
sorry,
Mood disorders, anxiety disorders, ADHD, and autism. Those are the four most diagnosed um, like disorders nowadays. Yes, those four.
so that's what I want to ask about. Is it that it's getting diagnosed more often, or is it that there's more awareness for it? Because I hear it so much. I'm curious to know if is it just the awareness part, or is it getting diagnosed more?
It's getting more diagnosed. The disorders that are more common now are ADHD, autism, mood disorder, and anxiety disorders. Okay, autism, the the ones that are less function, the kids who are less function in society, who can do less on their own. That means that they're less function. Those numbers are almost the same. What has increased is the one who are more function in society, who have more functionality in society, who can be more autonomous. You get me? Not the ones that are less. The ones are, but because the limit is very como delgado.
It's a thin line.
Yeah, it's a very thin line between being autistic and, for example, other kind of disorders, sensory disorders, for example. So sometimes it gets mixed up. Sensory disorders also have increased. Kids who don't like, who cannot take uh, loud sounds, for example, because they've been at home a lot. Um, So, and mood disorders because they have not had contact with other people. So they get depressed and they don't know how to talk to new people. They don't know how to meet people. They struggle with that. I think they have the ability. They can do it. We all have it. But you have to train it. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard for teenagers, for example, and this is not alpha. This is Z. They struggle a lot with meeting new people or confronting things they don't like, But alpha, no. Alpha confronts because we're teaching them that. And in school and parents. But Z have this, they're very introvert sometimes. And with the anxiety that they feel because they have to go to a new place that they don't know anyone, they want to know it. They want the structure. So yeah, it's tough. So these are the disorders that are more common, at least here, at least in Latin America, which is not only Chile, like in a lot of parts. So it's increased a lot. I think also Europe. I think yes. I think it should be like that. It must be like that because depression and anxiety impacts them because they don't have the connection at home. For example, they parents who just the helicopter parents who just make decisions for you, and they don't let you be part of the decisions sometimes. So
Yeah.
that doesn't give you a sense of belonging. So, and they misunderstand it. They say, no, okay, why am I going to ask him? I know what they're going to say, but you don't know. You have to give them
Mm,
the opportunity to make family decisions. For example, where do you want to go for a holiday? I'm not saying they have to make the last decision. I'm just saying you have to, they have to be, it has to be collaborative, like has to be from everybody, a common decision. So they have to give them the space. Sometimes we as adults forget that they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And this also doesn't help the fact that they were locked up for 2 years and did not have interactions. So you have to make them have a sense of belonging at home. That's so important. And that comes with that, with active listening to them, uh, with assertive communication, with listening more than lecturing.
I'm picking up this huge need that is more coming from the parent towards the child, which is let me just save some time and do it for them, like you said, Neelu, or even this whole idea of decision making or helicoptering coming from a place of uh, it'll save us all some time and we'll just get the job done, you know. And I wonder whether, of course, you have mentioned that even adults are more anxious today, and even the millennials, these are the parents of these alpha kids, are coming from a place of their own mental health, which needs a little bit of attention, perhaps. So, I wonder whether this is like a contamination from one gen to another, partly because of the baggage they're carrying themselves as parents, which it can be related to so many things. And we know millennials really well on this show because we've spoken about the burdens that they carry with the unexpected visions that they had for life, and how that just all got messed up because of socioeconomic situations or the job markets crashing, etc., etc. So this is having sort of a rippling effect on them as parents, even. Now, I sense that your role as an educator and as an expert psychologist is picking up on these things. So I want to know, um, what did you do as an expert with your team to modify sort of systems in schools when these things have happened, so with these rising numbers of disorders, or when they came back from COVID? Can you give us some tips that you applied that kind of restructured the way education looks like for these little kids?
Well, first, about the parents, I think millennials, we are the first generation, and that is very shocking, that we are actually aware that there are mental health issues and that can happen. We acknowledge it. And I think that's very important because we're willing to get help, or ask for coaching or ask for a therapist, because we know that we carry a lot of patterns from our parents. And now we know that we can break those patterns. Look, we are always going to scar our kids. That's just inevitable. So, like, that's just going to happen. But, but one thing is like, when I mean we're going to scar them, it's like they're going to have things about us that they don't like. And it's there, it's going to happen. But at least we don't have to put this heavy bag on their shoulders because we can lighten that up for them. You see, because we are willing to do it. Because if we make ourselves aware that we have issues, because we all have issues. We were raised with boomers, right? So they did not believe in psychologists or therapists or like what is mental health really. They just lived, which is okay because that's what they knew. But we know more than that. We know better now. So we have to be responsible of this knowledge, of this things that we are living. And being responsible means taking care of it, not just knowing it, but do something with that. And give them less burden to your kids. Try to break the circle. Really,
Mm.
try to break the circle, right? And and for that, I think we're open to that. Most of millennials are today open to that.
Okay.
Gen, Gen Z more, but millennials are there now. And teachers, as like teachers in school, they have they have had to learn how to co-regulate with kids. Parents also, parents
Mm.
also, and it's been tough for teachers mostly because it's 30, 40 kids sometimes in a classroom, so it's a lot.
Yeah.
And your own burden, your own mental health, and then you have to take care of these kids who have mood disorders. Some take medicines. A lot here take medicines for anxiety. They have their treatments for mood disorder or for dysregulations, sensory dysregulations. Like they shout or they have tantrums in school or they fight. They were very aggressive when they came. At first, the kids, and it was a collective thing. It was a Latin American thing. It was tough. I think it was a worldwide thing, but yes, because of this same thing, they did not know how to solve conflicts in a healthy way. So they just use whatever they had, whatever strategy they get. So what happened in Chile after COVID was that they started making laws so that the support teams in schools had to increase. So more psychologists, more counselors, more educational psychologists. So that's law. Um, because as I said before, the amount of disorders and diagnostics of different types increased a lot. So you needed more people in school to manage this because teachers cannot do it in the classroom. So sometimes you have to, take them away for a while. The noise, a lot of kids, uh, they're using headphones to, yeah, to deal with the loud noises, for example. So it's not a lot, but there are kids. We try and give them regulation elements, like mass. I use that a lot. Masa in Espanol, like Play-Doh,
Yes.
but it gives them a sense of comfort.
Mm.
Uh, Storytelling, um, the sensory elements mostly, mindfulness, like breathing techniques, short ones, and it has to be, as I told you, they should always be not only listening to it or doing it, but also with the motor skills. So like you follow, I don't know, a candle. So you go up and you go down with the breathing. So it has to be very concrete. You cannot just tell a kid, Now you're going to breathe and they're going to breathe out. No, that won't work. It won't work. I mean, maybe it will, but not with most of them, because they need to have the object there. um so that's very important. But yeah, it's had an impact, not only in schools, but I think with families also.
Thank you for sharing so much insight, because I mean, I'm sensing such a positive response from the parents themselves, being, as you said, the first generation to acknowledge mental health for themselves, and also be receptive to what's happening to their children. And some of these tools and tips that you've shared, I think they've really opened my eyes, especially because I always knew what mindfulness is. Obviously I practice it myself, but for a child, as you rightly said, there needs to be an objective, and there has to be sort of a very active visual sense of, why am I breathing, and what's the end result of this. It's promising. I think the future looks good. I think I'd like to believe, as you said, we should have high expectations of Alpha, as you began the episode, asking us to think about that. We're going to move into the myths very soon, and it's coming up to sort of a close end for today. But I'd like you to tell us if there's any advice that you would give to teachers, parents, that are navigating these very extraordinary times, with their children, smaller or adolescent. What would that be? Just as a mother, even, what advice would you give, Neelu?
um Try to make time at least once a week to spend with your kids without your cell phone.
Mm.
That's number one. Because one thing is to talk to them, and one thing is to talk to them with your cell phone. You don't connect. They don't feel. Nobody likes to be talking to someone who is on their cell phone. Not even us. I mean, I don't like it. And I try not to do it. If I'm talking to you, I want to talk to you. And we need to start teaching them how to model healthy skills for conflict resolution, for regulating emotionally. They have to learn how to read the tone of the person, the nonverbal communication, the tone, the face. Uh, and you as a parent, we as a parent, and as the caregivers, we have to model that for them, because they're just not going to learn it. You have to model. And we are always a mirror for all generations, for all the kids. Parents are always the mirror. And we and we are also the cause of their issues, because it comes from the parents. And when we have to take responsibility for that, and be smarter also, like, don't be afraid to put limits. That's the other thing. Parents feel afraid sometimes to put limits, because they feel that the kids are not going to like them. You know what? They're not going to like you anyways at some point. It's because it's that way. It's the process. So it's like I say, okay, I mean, my kid sometimes shouts back at me. I was like, okay, what can I do? I know that she doesn't like me, but this has to happen. You are not allowed to. And okay, if you want to get angry, get angry. What can I do? It will happen. And it's not only me. I think for all parents, kids are going to get angry at you. They're not going to like you at some point in their lives. And that will also pass. So
Yeah.
you have to do, as a parent, what you came here to do. You have to give them the whatever tools and the best of you. And if that means putting limits, you don't have to be scared of that. And the next also, and I think for me, well, you have to learn their slang, at least bits of it. And the most important is that I think you have to give them a place where they feel important. for parents at home, the and for schools also, and have high expectations of them, and high expectations of oneself also, because you are the one giving to them, so you have to be motivated for that, right? So yes, I think boundaries are important, but also a sense of belonging, slang, boundaries, and communication without self.
This has been so insightful, Neelu, because so I mean, Goldie as well. I'm sure you as well. A lot of parents of Gen Alpha come up and they're like, "Hey, how can I parent my child better?" And this and that, and this there's a lot of things they ask, right? And as coaches, we don't just give the answer straightforward. We kind of try to get a better understanding of what they're talking about. But these few, say, areas of guidance, I think it's really going to shine the light for them on what areas they need to focus on with respect to how they need to motivate their children to grow in the direction that's best for them, that helps them reach the expectations we should be setting for them.
I agree. It's opened a whole new, I think, door for many, many parents, Nilu. Honestly, I mean, your perspectives from Latin America, I think, resonate worldwide. If I'm honest, we see and speak to parents every day. I know I do in my own work, but what you've shared, this last portion that you gave us was very on point to just apply and to do a checklist, right? So what's going wrong? It's a bit like it reminded me of when a baby used to cry in the early years, and you'd wonder, are they hungry? Are they feeling hot or cold, or have they, do they need a diaper change?
Exactly.
It's a bit like that. Just do a checklist of, so where in their lives am I able to improve,
Yes.
and to deliberately and diligently apply that on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the last and to remember that the frontal lobe is not mature.
Mm,
That makes the whole difference.
yeah.
The overuse of screens, the rolling of reels and TikToks and the whole time, they're not ready for so much information. So it has to be regulated. There has to be limits of hours of time in use of screen time, because
Yeah.
it's affecting them and their mental health.
I want to ask you, do you have any book that you recommend to parents for reading, with what you've just shared about the overuse of screens and this
I
scientific
have,
explanation?
I have a very good book. It's not, but it's about looking, like looking to an early age again. Se llama Volver, but it's in Spanish. But it has the version in English. I can look for it. And it's the author is Chilean, is Felipe Le Canelier. He's
Okay.
a PhD psychologist, and really he's like, you read it and it's like you're learning all over again about childhood, because it makes you see like what was before, and that what was before still is, only that we have to add some other elements. It's called Volver a Mirar, actually.
To see again, quite literally
Yes,
translate.
yes.
We would love to add that in the show notes. So, when you do have the English translation title, do share that with me and I'll put that in. Yeah.
Will do. Perfect.
Okay. Well, this part of the show is a bit more fun, and I'm sure you'll find some of these things quite funny, Nilu. So we're going to sort of throw out a few of these myths, as we call them, and you can tell us if it's true or not, and the why. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Lakshan, why don't you start?
Right. Cool. So the first belief, let's call it a belief, let's not call it a myth, is that Good parenting means shielding them from all stress. True or false?
Good parenting means shielding them from stress. I think false because of what we were talking about helicopter parents. They need stress. Sometimes it's good. No, no, not because of that. Because being overly protective actually weakens resilience, right? They don't learn how to get up again. So you don't give them the opportunity to fall. And sometimes they need to feel a little stressed, overwhelmed, because then, if not, how are they going to learn how to tolerate frustration? I mean, you have to put them on the spot sometimes. And it doesn't make you a bad parent. It You are preparing your kid for life, not only for the day. You have to put them outside a bubble after they get out of school where they have to deal with so many problems. So and and problems like COVID or other stuff, accidents, things that happen, and they have to be able to solve them. So no, for me it's false.
Okay.
Actually.
I'm going to ask you this one, which I think is going to make you say things to us as well. So, a belief is that they speak a whole new language that no one understands. True or false?
They speak kind of true, I think. I think kind of true.
Hmm.
Because, well, first is when they speak, because they speak to their peers. I don't know if so much to their parents. The small ones, yes. Small ones speak a lot. But they speak a lot, like, for example, YouTube slang. Or sometimes I've seen kids who get the accent because they see, like, I don't know, they're from Chile and they see Mexican programs or Spanish programs. And you can and they have words and you're like, why are you talking like that? And it's because of overexposures to YouTube, right? So yes, I mean, I think it's kind of true, but I think it's important to learn those some of the slang to connect as
Hmm.
adults. So yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Picking on that.
cognizant of.
No, no, please go on, Bodhi.
No, I was just saying I'm cognizant of time, so maybe we have room for one more, which I'll ask you to
Sure.
ask.
So to continue pulling on the thread of social media, Neelu, the reason that social skills aren't developing is due to technology. True or false?
I think false because I think social skills are developing, but not in the way that maybe we expected or that we know. Okay. Um, they're able to communicate, they do have empathy, but sometimes maybe the way is not healthy. So I think that is what we have to teach them and model for them and regulate.
I think all the three, beliefs that we put forward to you, I loved how some were obviously true or false, but the outcome of all three gave us a lot of positive hope in terms of where to go forward.
Yes.
And I want to close on that positive note because I think Alpha is a generation which is barely coming in their own skin now. But I think collectively, as all the cohorts, especially the ones closest to their age, which are essentially the Gen Z followed by millennials, we need to be extremely careful of how we look after them and love them and educate them so that we are recognizing they are our future leaders, aren't they? Coming next 10 years, 20 years. And I'm going to take a back seat because I'm Gen X, so I'll probably be the grandmother of an alpha one day. Fingers crossed. And with that, We've come to the end of episode 41 of Mind the Gen Gap podcast. I've been your co host, Goldie.
And I've been your other co host, Lakshan. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and tuning in all the way to the very end.
Muchas gracias.
See you in the
Muchas
next one.
gracias. Thank you so much.
Hasta pronto.
Bye.
Bye.